you're gonna go again.
I'm thinking I can get there.
Okay, so
I'd rather to wait for this question.
buenas tardes, right? ¿Cómo estás?
Bien.
Muy bien. Okay, that's it.
You said?
Bien, but the legs. What is the legs? Hmm?
My leg hurt.
Yeah, yeah. What is legs in Spanish?
Pierna.
Oh, pierna. Yeah, pain, a little bit. But I will go to the doctor tomorrow. So I hope maybe they will give me the brace or whatever. Try to support my body.
Does it feel?
Huh?
Does your leg? Or is it your knee?
I think it's not only the knee, the whole, all around it's over here. Yeah. Maybe it's, it's old.
Maybe they'll give you a new one.
It could be. Maybe, cortisol or whatever, steroid.
Did you play soccer like that?
Huh?
Did you play soccer like that?
Yeah.
Like with your knee like that?
Mm-hmm.
You did?
No, not really. I mean, I believe because, this is old leg and then we have been walking for a long time. Just like, some people doing the long, what do you call the long run, marathon, something like that. Sometimes their mind still want to go, but their body stop. Yeah, just like my leg actually refuse to to walk. It's when I get out from the bus, that's what I really feel the pain. Carry that and then going to my homestay. Oh man! But finally, I'm able to to enter the house. But anyway, I feel better now. Yeah, I hope the doctor, can give me something to make it even better tomorrow. Okay, so tell me about your observations last night and this morning. Do you see any special organism or creature with a special adaptation with their habitat? You wanna go first?
Not really special adaptation, but I think it was the wren he was talking about, the bird that had the hanging home and the oval shaped entry. But he also talked about how certain birds adapted, like without that bird making that home like that, then certain birds wouldn't be able to live here because they use that as a place of predation on the birds and as a place of comfort too. So without that bird being here, then other birds like the toucan wouldn't be able to survive here.
Okay. How about you, Hania?
For me, I'm thinking of an observation that we made of a hummingbird nest, and one of the conversation pieces that stood out to me was that, I guess, kind of like the survival of hummingbirds and their offspring, because one of the pieces of conversation was that other birds can come in and destroy those nests
Okay.
hurt the offspring. So
Okay.
that seems like a
So it's kind of the other bird prey on the babies of the hummingbirds. How about you?
One thing I noticed was that we saw some frogs over there.
Okay.
But they were really small frogs.
Green kind of color.
Yellow.
Oh,
red,
okay.
I was thinking they were small because they have more predation, so they can't go big. And the tour guide said that they weren't poisonous or venomous, but they're colorful. So I was thinking that's more like a Batesian mimicry almost.
Okay.
Act like they're poisonous.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Good observation there. And then you use the learning tools that we learned last time, Batesian mimicry, yes.
We saw more there, but I feel like we've been seeing a lot in our whole time here of mushrooms.
Oh,
of different sizes and shapes and sort of where they grow.
Okay.
Some of them grow vertically off of fallen logs,
Okay.
or horizontally off of still upright trees.
The shelf,
or just sort of out of the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm thinking that we did see a very large one.
Mm-hmm.
It was oddly shaped.
Maybe like a ball.
It was sort of like
The big one.
yeah, the big one that sort of
Like a ball, right? Like a puff ball, something like that. Okay.
And so I'm thinking that different mushrooms have, while fungi generally have similar sort of networking structures, the
mycelium, what do we call
actual,
that?
the actual like sort of mushroomy part that people sort of recognize tends to be different color and shape, and I'm thinking that those are adaptations for them focusing on decomposing particular things, sort of finding their own niche in decomposition, so that like they're not really in competition per se, but they can find a specific thing that they decompose more often.
So mostly, this is different between bacteria and fungi. If you see that, where do you think mostly you find the fungi? Do they eat mostly on animal part or the plant part? Plants, yeah. Mostly fungi decompose organic that coming from the plant. Therefore, mostly you're gonna see the fungi actually on the bread, right? Mold. But what happened with the bacteria? Where you gonna see mostly? They decompose the animal organic part. You see that the difference? So mostly meat, for example, there will be a lot of bacteria instead of the fungi, the mold. But mold mostly gonna be on the bread, for example, the one that have the cellulose, the plant part. Okay, so good observations. Okay, so this is kind of actually going to the your presentation. So Luke asking about, do we have to be ready for the presentation? Yes, I believe you have to start, preparing for your presentation. And this also, you can prepare that presentation at the same time when you're preparing your last assignment. What is your last assignment about?
Artificial selection.
Artificial selection kind of. You can also, working on that. So the topic for your presentation is really wide. I mean, it's really up to you. You're gonna choose your own topic and talk about that specific. Let's say you're gonna choose a specific species or organism and see, their adaptation, the kind of evolutions, how they actually able to be, exist in this environment, in this habitat. What kind of adaptation that they have that make them, kind of being so many in this environment. So each of you can choose whatever organism that you want to talk. But make sure, I want you to send me the kind of the list or the organism that you're gonna talk for your presentation, because I don't want to have maybe the same organism that you talk. Okay, so I'm gonna see who gonna talking about plant maybe, or butterfly, or insects, or snake, or frog, whatever organism that you choose. There are so many organisms that you can use as your topic for your presentation. The presentation will be on Thursday. Okay, will be on the last day before we are going back to United States. You're gonna have final exam on Wednesday, the last lecture time. You're gonna have that final exam, and then on Thursday, okay, your assignment, the last assignment will be due, and then after that, everybody will gather together. Actually, the whole group, right? Not only this class, but the whole group will gather together, and on that time, actually, student will give the presentation. So this is for the whole group. The time is maybe about 5 to 10 minutes per student. So for Elmer, everybody actually will give. If you take 2 classes, it means that you will talk twice. Okay? For example, if you take my class and then you take Dr. Phelps' class, then you're gonna talk her topic and my topic. Elmer goes, we're gonna talk twice for the biodiversity and for the evolution. So do you have a question for this one? Okay, so prepare. Okay, 1 topic for this class to be presented during that presentation day. It's gonna be in front of everybody. Okay, anybody have a question? No? Okay, let's start our lecture. We'll continue from the previous one. Last time we finished chapter 2, okay, the process of evolution. Now we are going to species, which is the origin of species and speciation. Okay, so remember, evolutions, okay, mainly will produce species. That's the reason why evolution will contribute to the what we call biodiversity, right? So this biodiversity actually product of the evolution. Okay? So process of making species or creation of species is actually part of the evolution itself. Okay? Therefore, it's called the speciation. Now the question is, what is the origin of the species itself? Okay? And we actually already talked about it a little bit, right? Remember, we talked about the first cell. What do you call the first cell?
An organism?
What do we call the first cell? Did we talk about that before? Yes, right? So
Well, in embryology or
in evolution. So I think before we talk about, there is 2 types of evolution, actually chemical evolution. Do you still remember? Chemical evolution, which is the evolutions of the inorganic materials into organic materials, which is, Urey and Miller did experiments on it. And in their experiment, he actually able to produce proteins from gases or inorganic into organic molecules, right? So chemical evolutions, okay, from inorganic, okay, which is million years ago or billion years ago, mostly on Earth, there will be a lot of gases. Okay, and these inorganic molecules then evolve. Okay, they combine, finally to form organics. Organics molecules, right? And this organics molecule is actually going to be part of the organism. That's the name is actually coming from, organic organism, which is carbon backbone. Okay, you know these organics again. Then let's say create a new type of cell. Okay, it's called the primitive cell. It's called protobionts. Okay, so this protobionts is the outside part mostly covered by lipids. Okay, and the inside will be consist of organics, other organics molecules, okay, like DNA, proteins, etc. Okay, let's say it consists of DNA, some proteins. Okay, this is the protobionts. This is the chemical evolution. It's created the first cell. Then from here, then we go to what now many people say as an evolution itself. It's actually biological evolution. Okay, when we talk about evolution, this is mostly biological evolution. Okay, it is happening during. Anybody still remember the fossil time scale? What is the first time scale?
Precambrian.
Precambrian. It's happening during that time, which is the first cell created. Yeah, this is the first cell or evolve. Okay, which is a protobiont. Okay. And then these protobionts then evolve into the most primitive organism, which is the organism that have cell without nucleus. It has the DNA that is not covered by this is what we call the chromosome. Okay, it's not covered by the nuclear envelope. What do you call it again? What do you call the first prokaryote? Okay, prokaryote. Okay. And this prokaryote, of course, is not only one. It's only evolved many prokaryotes. Okay? You get this one? Many. Some of them may be big, some of them is smaller. Okay? Bigger. Get it? Many of them. Are you with me? It's going to be diverse. Now, what happened from this first prokaryote, you know, the big one is kind of eating the smaller one. Kind of, they combine, and the smaller one enter into the big one. I'm going to just this one. And then smaller one over here. Let's say eating maybe two of them. Right? Are you with me? Now, this is actually the theory of how the prokaryote evolved into the eukaryote. Are you following this? So you remember that theory, right? The theory is called
endosymbiosis.
Here you go. Did we talk about this already?
Yeah, I think we did.
I think we mentioned it.
Mentioned it a little bit. Okay, so endo what? Symbiosis theory. Okay. That's gonna be making the eukaryote. This is the evolution of eukaryote. Okay, of course, the prokaryote itself, they also evolve into many type of prokaryote. Okay, some of them then become eukaryote because of this endosymbiosis combination or theory. Okay, and then the one that become prokaryote, yeah, they're gonna be divided into. There are two types of prokaryote. What is that? Bacteria and archaea. So this is going to be evolved over here into many bacteria type and into many archaea type. That's evolution from the prokaryote itself. But when the big prokaryote ingests the smaller prokaryote, they start evolving into eukaryote. You get me? Now, here. Okay. I say this is already have on it, and this is another one that also have on it. Okay. Okay, let's say this is from the endosymbiosis action. One is become eukaryote, and then that's become covering by the nuclear envelope, then become nucleus. Okay, one of these become organelle that produce energy. What you call it? Mitochondria. And this one over here is become organelle that able to perform photosynthesis? Chloroplast. Okay, and let's say this one only have the first one over here, the one that produce energy, mitochondria. You follow this? Okay. So what happened with this group then? It's become a group that able to produce food. What you call that group?
Autotrophs.
Autotroph. Autotroph, which is gonna be making plants. From here, it's become plants and also algae. Okay, but the other one over here then will become another type of eukaryote that do not produce food. They have to take food from others. What do you call them? Heterotroph, which is consumers. So producer, consumer. Now, what is the proof of this? That's the question. What is the proof that eukaryote start from the prokaryote that combine together, perform what we call the endosymbiosis? What is the proof? Anybody know? Yeah.
The organelles like the mitochondria and the chloroplast,
yes,
they have sort of the bilayer membranes, and they also have their own DNA.
Yes. So if you see closely, you take the DNA, the molecular class, okay? When they analyze this mitochondria and this chloroplast, what do they find? Hola. Hi, Lorena. Buenas.
How are you?
Bien, little bit. Good, yeah. Thank you. So, when they analyze this organelle, these two organelles, as I say, still carry their own DNA. You can imagine that. It carry DNA. What does that mean? It means that this organelle used to be an organism that have DNA or chloroplast, which is what? Prokaryote. That's the clue that they propose regarding the evolution of eukaryote. Of course, from here, then it's evolved into many different type of eukaryote. Okay? Starting from, what is the most primitive eukaryote? Protists, and then fungi, plant, and animals. Can you follow this? Okay? This is the origin of species will be coming from this. So they have, this is what we call, from here over here, the protobiont is considered as the first ancestor. Okay, first ancestor of all organisms. And then after that, there's gonna be another ancestor for plant, ancestor for animals, and etc. You're gonna learn that later. What is the ancestor for plant? What is ancestor for the fungi? What is the ancestor of animal, for example? Okay. Okay, that's clear, right? That's the evolutionary theory about the creations of species, including that eukaryote from the prokaryotes. Okay, now, again, we have to define the species first. What is species in order to know, okay, the speciation itself, what is considered as species. So this is the main definition for species. What is that? This is a group of organisms that able to interbreed and produce, that's very important, produce viable offsprings. Okay, if they only able to interbreed but not producing viable offspring, it's not considered as a species. Some different species, they able to interbreed, but they do not produce viable spring. Therefore, they are become separate species. Okay, we cannot only look from the characteristic of organism to say this is one species. That's not, sometimes it's not give us the right or the correct answer. Like for example, human. Okay, human. Sometimes human is very varies, right? It's not really the same. The structure may be the same, but sometimes the shape, the colors, some character, they are very different, right? But when they interbreed, they produce the viable offspring, they're able to perform that. That is become a species, right? But there are some birds that actually really similar, or frog. They are very similar, right? Compared to, for example, if you compare, human with different race, they are very kind of different characters. And this frog is really similar characters, but when they interbreed, they do not produce the viable offspring. What happened with them? They become separate species because this is not fulfilling this definition over here. So the main definition for species is organism that able to interbreed and produce viable offspring. Okay, and then this is the another definitions. That is in your textbook actually. So I took it from your textbook. This is from Meyer. Species is a group of interbreeding natural population that are reproductively isolated from other groups. So in his definition, he's adding what? He's adding something that make two different species unable to reproduce. What we call the isolation. So they put that, he put that definition, additional word on that definition, which is there is a isolation. Okay, there is a block that making two different species will not be able to produce the viable offspring. Okay, now sometimes two species able to interbreed and produce offspring, but the offspring will be sterile. Okay, so the offspring that coming from two different species, but they are mostly closely relative, a species is called hybrid. Good examples, several times we mentioned about horse and donkey produce the mule. Okay? So this horse, one species, donkey, one species, and produce the mule, which is unviable or sterile. Okay, so this is what we call the isolations, or what we call the barrier. There are several barriers that make two different species unable to reproduce. Okay, or if they reproduce, usually the offspring will not be viable. Okay, there are two main types of barrier or isolation between two species. The first one is called the pre-zygotic. Pre-zygotic. What does that mean? What does zygote mean?
It's
the product of
two gametes conjoining.
Yeah, the product of fertilization between sperm and eggs. Okay, that's a zygote. So that's the point when it is divided into these two different barriers, which is the zygote. So pre-zygotic mean this is inability of two species, okay, to interbreed even before they're making the zygote. It means that it's really impossible for them to interbreed. Really, because what? Because of this different time, maybe different behavior, maybe, or different mechanical structure, okay, of the sexual organ, for example. Okay. So again, this is the pre-zygotic barrier, mean the barrier that happening before even that two species able to interbreed. The second one is what is the second one? Post. It means that the two species able to interbreed. They're able to mate. However, the zygote that they produce maybe die, or maybe they have miscarriages, or maybe it produce, but it's gonna be sterile offspring. Okay? You see the different word between pre and post. Pre mean before, and post mean after. So pre-zygotic mean before they able to produce a zygote. Example of pre-zygotic berry is the time. The first one is called the temporal isolation, which is time. So for animal, many animal, they actually have different time of mating. It's not like human. Okay? Human don't really have the mating session, right? But animal, they do have mating season. They do have it. Like for example, maybe like a frog, maybe during rainy season, but during dry season, maybe they don't really do the mating. So therefore, if two species have different mating season or temporal mating season, then what happened? They will not be able to do it. Okay? One in the spring, the other one is in the summer, for example. Right? They will not interbreed. That's first type of pre-zygotic, time different. What is the second one? Habitat. It means that one live in different habitat and the other one in the different habitat. It will not meet. Okay? They will not meet. Because what? Because they live in different place. What is the next one? Mechanical. So the sexual organs is really different. I can give you the very harsh example, like for example, maybe between elephants and chicken, for example. That's a very harsh example. They will not be able to perform the interbreeding because what? Just so different sexual organ. But there are some animals that's close related, the same insect, for example, but they still have different sexual organ that make them unable to interbreed. This is pre-zygotic barrier. What is the next one? Behavior. This is mostly on bird type. Okay? Most bird, they have dancing before they mating. Okay? This is behavior. And the dancing of each bird is actually different. If you see between chicken or between, what is the very beautiful bird that peacock, for example, they have different dancing type. It's not the same. So if the peacock, for example, go to the chicken say, or the hens, what's he doing? This is not my dancing type. So they will run away. So this is behavioral barrier. This is the one that make them unable to reproduce. Therefore, they become what? Different species. There is a barrier. Now, the post-zygotic barriers, there are two types. Maybe they're able to mate, interbreed. However, the zygote is not developed. The embryo will die. They might have miscarriages or just die. Or the sperm and eggs will not produce the zygote itself. It will not combine. It's not the same. That's first. Second, they might be able to produce the zygote, develop into embryo, and finally become offspring. The offspring getting born, but what happened with the offspring? Mostly will be sterile. And this offspring is called hybrid. So hybrid is actually a type of post-zygotic barrier in two relative species. Mostly it's two closely relative species, horse and donkey, lion and tiger, for example, polar bear and the grizzly bear. They're still the same type, but they will not produce the viable offspring, even though they're able to interbreed and produce the offspring. Do you have a question for this one? And again, this is the definition for species, and this is the one that scientists use for classification of species. So even though, for example, in dogs, do you see dogs? There are many different type of breeds, right? Small one, big one, but they're able to reproduce. They're able to interbreed and reproduce baby. I don't know how, what is the baby gonna be between the big one and the small one. but they're able to interbreed and produce their offspring, and the offspring mostly viable. Therefore, even though you see the structure, the shape, the morphology, just very different, what between the bulldog and the German Shepherd, for example, they're different, right? So the bulldog is just where they it's scary, you know. I can imagine the mouth is very big. You can imagine it's biting. But the German Shepherd is kind of the mouth is kind of sharpening a little bit, what? But they're able to interbreed. Why? Because they are still in the same species. You see that? So you cannot really tell, okay, the species based on morphology. That's the reason one the definitions telling you that species is a group organism that able to interbreed and produce viable offspring. That's it. Even though maybe the characters, maybe the shape, the morphology is kind of different. Okay, you with me? And again, I mentioned that many birds actually they look like very similar, but they cannot produce, and they become different species. Okay, you get this one? Okay, how the species define. Okay, this is just example between two frogs that live in. This is time different, seasonal different. The mating season different between these two frogs. And this is two crickets, but they live in different habitats. They become unable to mate. They become two different species. And this is the sexual organ of some insect or some, this is actually what is the damselfly, okay, which is insect. Okay, they have different sexual organ. Therefore, this sexual organ only compatible with the same species. It will not compatible with different species. Therefore, they become different species. Okay. Okay. This is courtship displays, dancing display. This bird, so they have special dancing. Okay. And this bird will not be able to attract other bird because that other bird will have different dancing type. Okay. And this is example of post-zygotic barrier. In this case, production of hybrid mule. Okay. Okay. Do you have a question for this species definitions? If not, then we go to this. This is part of this evolution over here that will produce the speciation. Now, this is actually what Darwin drew, okay, when he's talking about how the species evolve. So he's drawing this kind of things look like a tree, right? Tree. So therefore, it's called it's like family tree, right? And this shape of the tree evolution is called the phylogeny. So phylogeny is the drawings of speciation based on who is the ancestor, who is the common ancestor in every point. So like this one over here, this is the first common ancestor, and then in this point over here, there's gonna be another common ancestor for this group. And here over here, you see another. Gonna put it. Another point over here. What is that? It's common ancestor for this group. And you see over here, this is another point. It's gonna be common ancestor for this group, common ancestor for this group, and etc. Okay. So this every point on this phylogeny in this tree is telling you they have the same common ancestor. Okay, so every point is mean common ancestor. This is another. Based on this, then some scientists also put this kind of phylogeny starting from the first cell, the protobionts, and then this cell is actually evolve into different ancestor, and then this ancestor also create another ancestor. Finally, is give us the 3 domain of organism. What are the 3 domains of organism?
Eukarya, bacteria, archaea.
Yes, so bacteria, eukarya, bacteria, archaea, and eukarya. We start from the very primitive one, bacteria, archaea, and eukarya as the most developed or the most evolved type of organism. Okay, do you have question for this illustration? This is the one that is used mostly right now for looking for the common ancestor using this type of phylogeny. Okay, phylogeny tree. Okay, it's telling you the connection between this different group of organisms. Okay. Again, we're going back to this fossil time. This is the emergence of, yes?
Are we going to be expected to know how to read phylogenetic trees for the final?
No, not really. Not really. Okay. But at least you know the 4 time scale. Okay. Precambrian. What is the next one? Paleozoic, Mesozoic, Cenozoic. Where is the first cell evolve? In what? Precambrian. Where the dinosaurs evolve? Mesozoic. Where the humans, the modern human evolve, for example. Yeah, see? You got it. That's not that difficult, right? So look at this Precambrian over here. It's very long period of time. That most of the time there is no organism yet. This is what we call this over here during this time, the first Precambrian era. This is the chemical evolution. Mostly going to be chemical evolution from inorganic to form the organics materials. So it's how many years? For 4,500 million years before, okay, until around 630 million years ago. From 4.5 billion years into 6.5 million years ago. This means that billion year is actually no organism yet. That's when it starts from the earth. The earth form, and then long period of time without organism. Okay, and then starting here, okay, you see it over here, 3.7 billion years ago, still nothing. It's still just DNA creation, which is, still chemicals evolution. Here, the origin of life is about 3.8 to 3.7 billion years ago. I mean, it's from 4.5 billion years ago to 3.5 billion years ago, about 1 billion years without organism yet. Okay? The organism starts at 3.5 billion years, and then the first eukaryote start is 1.7 billion years ago, still in the time of Precambrian. The first eukaryotic also evolved, and then the first multicellular organism, for example, about 1.2 billion years ago. Of course, even though it's multicellular organism, it's going to be small. And then after that, you're going to see the Paleozoic. You still start the Pangea. Okay, the Pangea is now the earth kind of forming the land, and because of that land, then now it's bigger organism will start to develop. Therefore, after that, coming the Mesozoic time. This is when then big animals, big plants, they evolve in this on this earth. Okay, this is during Mesozoic, and then again Cenozoic, we have the first human evolve. according to this, the first human, and this is not modern human, it's just kind of human shape organism, is actually evolved about 6 million years ago. And your reading said about 100,000 years ago, right? So between 25,000 to 100,000 years ago, that's evolution of many, some of the Homo species, not Homo sapien, but some Homo species. But the modern human, the Homo sapiens, is considered developed about 0.1 million years ago. How long is that? About 10,000, 10,000 to 25,000 years ago. We are new. We are actually new population on Earth. Just evolved several. That's according to this fossil record. Okay. Do you have question for this? Okay. And again, from this, then scientists divided all organisms into different domains and different kingdoms. How many domains again? Three. What are they? Bacteria, Archaea, Eukarya. How many kingdoms?
4.
Total. Gonna be 5 kingdoms, right? There will be 5 kingdoms. All the Archaea and bacteria will be included in one kingdom. Is called the Monera kingdom or Prokarya kingdom, and then the rest will be Eukarya kingdom, which is 4 kingdoms for Eukarya. So remember, there are 5 kingdoms. Okay, not 4, because this 4 is only for Eukarya. And this Eukarya kingdom, the most primitive one will be protists, and then fungi, plant, and animal. Some scientists say that actually fungi is more modern than plant because it's close relative to animals. So that's another book. Okay, scientists. Okay. Okay, what time is it now?
5:45.
5:40. Okay, 15 more minutes. Okay. Do you have question for this? Again, this is the evolution based on time scale. Now, again, this is the phylogeny. Okay. This is the phylogeny tree of organism. Again, I mentioned to you, every point is actually common ancestor. Every dot, every point over here, every branch, that's telling us there is the same common ancestor for the top organism. Right? Like for example, the first point over here, this is considered as the common ancestor for all organisms, and we call this as protobionts. And from protobiont, then creating many or evolve into many different type of cell. So it's going here, is going to be, making this one over here, okay, this dot over here. That's going to be the common ancestor for all bacteria. And the dot over here, that's going to be common ancestor for all archaea. But if you see here, the dot over here, what is that, the point over here? What's the branch over here telling you, the dot over here, the point over here? That's the common ancestor for what? Archaea and Eukarya. So based on this information, then scientists actually believe that Archaea and Eukarya, they're coming from the same common ancestor. It's not actually with the bacteria. Bacteria have separate common ancestor. Do you follow this? Okay. So just make sure you're able to read this phylogeny tree. Okay. Every point over here is mean that they have the same common ancestor for the groups on this side. Okay. Let's say between plant and fungi, right? So you see that one? Between plant, fungi, animal, they have the so common ancestor over here. In this, you're going to be this dot close here. Okay? And then the protists is actually separate common ancestor. And etc. And if you see here in the archaea over here, the name is actually telling you the type of archaea. So remember, archaea is a type of bacteria that live in extreme environment. And usually the name is telling you what type of extreme. It's not ice cream. What type of extreme environment they have. Look at here. Let's say halobacterium. Anybody know what is the halo mean? Halophyte, if you ever heard about halophyte, which is plant that live in salty environment. So plant that live in, for example, mangrove, they are including it as a halophyte. The same thing with this archaea. If you see halobacterium over here, what does that mean? This bacteria are able to live in very salty environment. Maybe in Dead Sea. Have you ever heard about Dead Sea? That's actually the saltiest water in the world. Very, very salt. Okay. Usually, the regular ocean have about 35% of salinity, but that one is above 40. So salty. But there are some bacteria that live there, and that bacteria will be called as a halobacterium, which is archaea. Look at this. Thermoplasma. What does thermoplasma mean then? High heat, hot spring water, for example. Do you think there is a organism that live there? Maybe not, but actually yes, there is a bacteria, a type of bacteria that live on that place. Because what? Because they are thermophilic. They love the hot, okay, environment. Okay, like I said here, Methanococcus, methanobacteria. What do you think this bacteria will eat? Methane. The place that produces a lot of methane, for example, methane is a gas, CH4. Yeah, that maybe is actually poison or toxic, but some archaea able to live in this place. Okay. Thermococcus, for example. In the volcanic area, sometimes there's a methane bacteria that live there. Have you ever climbed to the mountain and then finally go to the volcanic area? Anybody have done that before? I have done it several times, and what over there is actually smell really bad. The smell coming from methane, sulfur and methane. Therefore, there are some bacteria that live there called sulfuric bacteria. Usually, when we people that climb to that volcanic area, they carry what we call bandana, and then usually we carry also coffee powder. When we are reaching that place, we put that coffee powder in our bandana and we put it in our nose. When we pass that place, we actually smell the coffee instead of smell of the sulfur gases, which is smell like somebody farting.
Isn't that also what happens? Maybe not the coffee part, but I've seen, like, for example, in islands in Hawaii, active volcanoes,
yes,
in which people have to evacuate.
That's right.
Those locations that they have to wear
masks and
protective gear. Is it?
Yeah.
It's something along those lines.
Yeah. That's for that condition, sometimes not only the smell that is dangerous, but also the heat that coming from that gas. But when we're passing the volcanic area, usually they are not during eruption. The heat is okay, but the smell that is really kind of bad. But usually we cover with our bandana or mask. But maybe right now people use mask, but before that we don't really have. Mask is not really our choice at that time. So I'm still young, so I can. And then again, I use that bandana, put it with the coffee, and then we smell the coffee and then we pass it. that we have a lot of volcanic in our place actually, because we are in the same area like his here over here. We have a area island. It's called the Ring of Fire. Have you ever heard that one? So it's a ring of fire. Actually, the volcanic area is making a ring. From India going down to Indonesia, and then to Hawaii, going up to the San Francisco area over there, and then just like making a ring. So, including this place, Costa Rica, also part of the Ring of Fire, volcanic rings. Okay. I think we're gonna stop here. Do you have questions? If not, then prepare with that assignment and also the presentation. Remember, presentation will be 100 points. So make sure you prepare good. Okay. Don't be stressed. Just relax when you're talking. In front of people. I believe all of you have that. Experience.
So it's next Thursday.
Next Thursday.
We just have an organism picked out. We talk about it for
about 5 to 10 minutes per person.
And you said share or you said we pick the.
Yeah, please let me know. So, like for example, if you choose plan, what plan you choose for your top, then I'm gonna put Hania already choose like maybe Moses, for example. So somebody else put different organism. I believe it's not that difficult because there are so many organisms that you have observed so far. Okay? Okay. See you tomorrow then.
It might take